Call this meeting to order and open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, do the honors tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks for attending our meeting. This is the July 1st, 2020 hearing of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Roll call, please.
Mr. Begarow.
Here.
Mr. Boggs.
Here.
Mr. Browring.
Here.
Ms. Butler. Mr. Davis.
Present.
Ms. Rogers. Mr. Truax.
Okay, thank you. We do have, this is a body of 7 and we have 4, so we have barely a quorum tonight. And you're the applicant for this?
That's correct.
Just so you're aware, I always do this when we're down to 4. Any action we take tonight requires 4 votes. So essentially we have to have a unanimous vote to take an action, just so you're aware of that. Okay, on the agenda, old business. We have Transportation Corridor Overlay District Application TCOD 20001. Applicant Trent Walker, and this is for the property on Broad Street between Belmar and Summit Ridge.
Thank you, sir. Like you said, this is TCOD 20001. Acreage of this property is at approximately 1.32. It's currently zoned GB General Business, and the applicant is requesting approval of a Transportation Corridor Overlay District application pursuant to Section 1259.07 of the Pataskala Code. If you take a look here, in the area map with the parcel itself outlined in yellow. To the east, you've got North Belmar Drive, to the west, Summit Ridge, and running along the south, Broad Street. So, a quick summary of the property. It's currently vacant. There's a stream that runs parallel to East Broad Street on the north of the lot with some existing trees along that stream. There's 3 frontages again, East Broad Street to the south, Belmar Drive to the east, and Summit Ridge Drive to the west. Here's a closer look at the existing conditions on the lot. You can see the tree line and stream that runs through the north of the property. So the proposal is to construct a car wash on the property. Car washes in the GB district are conditional use. However, the applicant did receive their conditional use approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals on the May 12th hearing. The dimensions of the building itself are proposed to be 140 feet by 38 feet or 5,320 square feet. Exterior to be comprised of stone veneer, painted concrete block with a blue colored metal roof. Setbacks from the front on East Broad Street are 65 feet, and technically, since the east and west sides of this property are on frontages, they have to meet the front yard setback. So from the left side setback, it's 70 feet 4 inches. The right is 133 feet and 4 inches, and the rear is 44 feet and 2 inches. Parking wise, they're proposing 3 employee spaces, 14 vacuum spaces, and a 22-foot wide double stacked drive-through lane with space for 29 vehicles and 1 ADA accessible space. Here's a look at the proposal. Got your 3 parking spaces here to the east side, 14 vacuum spaces lined up against the south base of the building with the double stacked drive-through lane going along the north. Here's the exterior of the building. You got your south and north elevations there, and your west and east elevations. So access is to be from 2 35 feet wide access drives, one on North Belmar and one on North Summit Ridge Drive. They are proposing to install a left turn lane on East Broad Street into North Summit Ridge Drive. And take a look here, you can see the 2 access drives here on both the east and the west side with the left turn lane from Broad Street into North Summit Ridge. Landscaping wise, they're proposing L4, which is a 6-foot privacy fence, and 1 tree for every 30 feet along the north property line where it adjoins the neighboring residential uses, and L2, which is the 3-foot shrub line with 1 tree for every 30 feet along the frontage of North Summit Ridge and North Belmar. Interior landscape islands with decorative trees at each corner of the structure, and they're proposing to enclose the dumpster in a split masonry screening to match the building exterior. And they're also proposing to enclose and pipe approximately 260 feet along the north property, enclose and pipe approximately 260 feet of that stream along the north property line and mitigate that per the EPA, the City of Pulaski, and or the Army Corps of Engineers if it's required. So here's a closer look at the landscaping. The red line here along the north between the residential uses is the L4 landscaping, that being a 6-foot high fence with 1 tree, and the blue lines here is the L2. So in the narrative statement that was supplied by the applicant, they also stated that the car wash itself will have a wash cycle of approximately 2.5 minutes or 24 vehicles per hour. We're going to use shielded LED lighting to eliminate light intrusion on the adjacent properties and their time to shut off and dim at night as necessary. Sound deadening design is in layout to prevent sound leakage. Hours of operation are supposed to be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. They approximate 10 to 12 employees, and they use biodegradable car wash soap that does not use noxious chemicals. They also stated that any tree over 6 inches in diameter is to be replaced per the city requirements, and that underground stormwater detention engineered to not overwhelm the existing stormwater system will be included, and the building is designed to address all 4 sides as to not have a definite backside. So here's the concept renderings that were also included in the application. Southeast corner, you can kind of see in the back here the 6-foot fence with trees every 30 feet. Southwest corner, the northeast corner. And here's the lighting render that the applicant also submitted. So as a part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. Again, they received their conditional use already on May 12th from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and attached to the staff report is a list of staff comments. There are several items that the Planning and Zoning Commission has the authority to approve as proposed, those being setbacks, buffer zones, parking requirements, and landscaping/design. The applicant is requesting waivers for the following items: the front setback on Broad Street, which is required to be 40 feet. They're proposing 14 feet, which is a waiver of 26 feet. The front setback on Belmar, again, 40 feet is required. They're proposing at 22 feet 7 inches and requesting a waiver of 17 feet 5 inches. And the front setback on Summit Ridge, 40 feet is required. They're proposing at 13 feet 5 inches and a waiver of 26 feet 7 inches. The rear pavement setback is 25 feet. It's proposed at 18 feet, and they're requesting a waiver of 7 feet. And that the trash receptacles shall be located behind the buildings. They're requesting a waiver to have it in front of the building. The applicant stated that there was no room behind the building to fit the dumpster. However, they did add additional landscaping around it to compensate. And finally, the minimum distance of 8 feet is required between the building and the parking area. On the north side, there's a little bump out where it's only 4 feet, and therefore they're requesting a waiver of 4 feet. And on the south side, it's only 6 feet, so they're requesting a waiver of 2 feet for the south side. The minimum number of parking spaces for car washes is not given in the code. However, the code does state that the Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to determine the number required. In cases of the TCOD, the Planning and Zoning Commission can also approve with modification, or disapprove the parking requirements as proposed, and staff believes the parking will be sufficient. So pursuant to 1259.05F, when you're in the TCOD, sidewalks shall be provided along each parcel at time of development. Broad Street, this is an 8-foot wide asphalt path, and on Summit Ridge and Belmar, this is a 4-foot wide concrete sidewalk. However, the developer can contribute to a fund in lieu of installing the sidewalks when they're not compatible with surrounding land. Staff believes the fee in lieu would be more appropriate for this location. And according to 1291.04A4 and 1283.07B, L2 landscaping is required along all public street frontages. The L2 is proposed along the east and west frontages, however, not along Broad Street. Staff believes the L2 should be installed along Broad Street as in other TCOD projects, for example, O'Reilly Auto Parts next door. And as part of the review, we routed this around to different departments and agencies. The Public Service Director included the following requirements. following comments. The first one being to satisfy the requirements of the TCOD. Working with the developer will be required to install a left turn lane on Broad Street at Summit Ridge Drive. This is acceptable and details will be worked out in the engineering review. 2, being developer is also asked to provide right-of-way, which they have done. 3, developer must satisfy any EPA or Army Corps engineers requirements to be able to pipe in the existing water line. And 4, being specific design elements and requirements for stormwater access management and turn lanes will be addressed in the final engineering plan review. The city engineer did submit some comments, however, they are mostly for the construction plan review and do not really apply to the TCOD approval. They're here, but I won't necessarily dive into them, but they're there if we need them. We didn't receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. Surrounding properties, to the north we have it zoned R20, medium density residential, and it's currently single family homes. To the east we have it zoned general business, however it's currently vacant undeveloped land. To the south it's zoned R20 and GB, which is currently some various commercial businesses and also some undeveloped land. And to the west we have it zoned GB general business, which is the auto parts store. So, should the Planning and Zoning Commission choose to approve the applicant's request, following modifications may be considered. 1, being the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Tasca and the Lincoln County Building Department prior to construction. 2, being the applicant shall address all comments from the Planning and Zoning staff, Public Service Director, and the City Engineer. And 3, being the applicant shall supply Planning and Zoning staff with a set of minor plans upon approval of the zoning permit. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Now, if I could jump in real quick here, we need a motion to take this off the table. I don't think we did that.
Yes, very good, thank you. I'll move that we remove this from the table. Second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Charlie. Discussion?
Mr. Burring,
Yes.
Mr. Bagarelle,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes, and we're free to discuss this now. Thank you for pointing that out, Scott.
No problem.
Jack, in your summary there, I just had one question to start, and this, you had suggested that L2 landscaping should be installed along Broad Street, but I didn't see that in the modifications listed, other than by reference of, answering questions. Was that covered under there? Is that why it was not called out specifically, or?
Do you think it would be okay to have it covered under? That was my intent.
Yeah, the intent was that they address all comments, so that would,
Okay.
yeah, that should encompass that.
Very good. Charlie, questions for staff?
For,
Questions for staff?
oh no, no questions for staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so with it being a car wash, when they come in, they're gonna have a turn lane off of Broad Street.
Correct.
But there's 2 entrances. So, like with any car wash that's like this, when it gets busy, they get a backup. You see it on every place there's a Moo car wash has this issue. What's the plan for that? Are they gonna back up onto Broad Street, or are they gonna back up on these side roads?
There can't be any backup. They do have it stacked appropriately, and they do have the parking lot so you could wrap around. However, in review by the Public Service Department and City Engineer, they did not think there'd be any issues with backing up onto the roads. I know there's the Moo in Pickerington that I've seen where they're right on 256.
Yeah, the other one on Broad is good because it's an access road, but
Mhm.
the other ones are pretty bad, so, okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Frank?
Yeah, I'd share a similar concern with that. Now, it says that there's a cycle time of 24 vehicles per hour. Is that just, can they only fit one car through there at a time? I know some of them, I thought you can fit multiple cars through there and have a higher cycle time of vehicles through there. Maybe that's not a question for staff.
I believe it's just a single car,
Mm-hmm.
like a single wide, but
You have the double stack
yeah,
along the back of the property, and then when it gets down to your turn to go through the car wash, it's single through.
Okay.
But you do have that double stacking ability along the back.
yeah.
And then the exit of the building here, there's like when it's exiting,
if there's a right-hand turn that the car would need to make, I drive a truck, so I'm just kind of thinking like, if this is full, trying to negotiate that turn, it just seems a little tight there. So it would be a concern there. Maybe it's just the way that it looks in the drawing, but and especially if it gets kind of backed up, you know, I don't want to get.
Is this on the Belmar or?
So no, it's
Right,
it's exiting the car wash.
Oh.
And it's making that right-hand turn, kind of.
If the stacking area was full,
Yeah, if the stacking area was
That's where it would
full,
be an
or if
issue.
it was even beyond capacity onto the driveway, you
Yeah.
know, I could see a concern with getting gridlocked in there.
And I can see your concern with that, but unfortunately, we have nothing in the code that talks about turning radius or radii in the parking lot.
That's all I have for right now.
that's it. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, ask the applicant to step forward and I'll swear you in, and then you have the opportunity to give us any additional information or comments, and then take our questions. Do you swear that any testimony you will give in this matter will be the whole truth, yes, or shall answer unto God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Start with your name and address, please.
Trent Walter, 1266 Little Rosberg Road, Ashland, Ohio.
Okay, thanks.
As far as additional information, I was Jack did a great job summarizing this. I could add just a couple things on your comments. We can hold roughly 60 to 75 cars on this lot. You know, obviously you see 29 that are stacked there. The car wash itself can have upwards of 5 to 6 cars in the tunnel at one time. The 24 cars is just an average number per hour. There will be days where we'll be 50 or 60 cars per hour. But you know, the site design here can process that. The question about the turning radius on the end, if we had a busier day and there were some challenges there with trucks, we would have staff directed out there, potentially put cones in, so that would be single lane coming in to make sure that, you know, flow is very, very important to us. It's an express wash, so we want to get people in and out as quickly as possible. I believe that was just some notes I was taking as you guys were asking the staff comments, so I'm open for any other questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. And we will have some, I'm sure. So, question from commission members. I'll start with Rob.
Not really. I think it's a great concept though, and I really hope to see it come in there. We need a better car wash closer. So
Thank you.
I think it looks like a good design.
It was a very difficult lot to develop. Obviously, with the right-of-way extending out, there's a lot of hardships. Obviously, it's going to be very expensive to widen Broad Street, but at the end of the day, you know, not just this car wash will benefit, other businesses around there will benefit. So that was tough, but you know, we really worked hard to get this within the parameters of getting it on this lot.
I'm good.
Frank?
No questions for right now.
Thank you. Charlie?
Is this the first car wash that you have, or first of all, are you the owner?
I'm the managing member of the investment group.
Okay.
So this group specifically has 5 other washes in the greater Cleveland area.
Okay.
But I also manage some other brands, one called Patriot Express, which we're working on its 3rd location, and then Buckeye Express, which we're actually opening up our 7th location today. I've been in the car wash industry since I was 5 years old. So I brought my son today because my dad took me to his first meeting about his age. I wanted to learn the business as well.
Yeah.
So I'm 42, so I've been doing this, you know, well over 30 years. Just from my background.
So the other locations are different locations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this will be the first one
In Pataskala, Columbus Market.
in
yes.
Columbus Market.
The closest one would probably be Marion, Mansfield, Akron, Canton, Norwalk, Stowe, Twinsburg, Elyria, Brook Park, Avon, Mentor.
Okay.
We've built them in several other municipalities. We've stayed with a very similar design, just because of the flow of vehicles, egress, ingress. We've learned a lot since our first location.
Any plans on more coming to Columbus area?
Yes, sir. We'd like to come down here and build a brand down here as well, so. But this is, it's a pretty thorough process, you have to put a lot of time into the due diligence. We start talking about a $2 to $3 million project.
Right.
I manage the investor, so we wanna know that, they're gonna get a return and that, we're gonna do things properly. We have over 200 employees at all of our sites combined. So, one of the upsides to managing all these washes is that we can make a career for employees that come here. We can either teach them some basic skills and they can move up the ladder with us, or they can go out to college and do other things, or they can actually become a site manager, a district manager. They can roll into maintenance if they have an aptitude for that. So, as we're bringing employees in, we're trying to give them an actual career. I mean, site managers will make $65,000 a year with bonuses, and if they roll a district manager, car allowances, other things. So, we're trying to bring a very value-added business to the community.
With COVID-19, did you have any concerns with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
We do. We went, basically when COVID first hit, we shut down for 2 weeks. We circled the wagons. We listened to CDC recommendations. We went back to the locations. Obviously the sanitization protocols were all put in place. And then, employees, masks, zero interaction at the pay station. After somebody had used the pay station, if they touched it, it was sanitized. So, our playbook got a lot thicker. I mean, we had a lot of stuff, but, with that being said, we're actually sanitizing the exterior of the car. So, we are helping clean the vehicles. And, we ended it, last month, but we did free washes for all first responders. If you pulled up to the pay station, said you're a first responder, we gave you free washes just to show our support. And I can't tell you how many 100,000 cars we washed or whatever. It was some crazy number, and just trying to help the community. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
gotta get back. We were very actively involved. We just did it was the longest stay here last weekend with Alzheimer's, and it strikes close to home. My mom was passed about a month ago because of it, so we donated proceeds from every wash across all our locations to the Alzheimer's Fund. So we want to be a part of the community and give back.
Sound like you're working for a good company. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like it. I like it. Sorry, I'm stuck on my I like it.
Yeah. I saw your website too, and I saw you do some stuff with fundraisers. And
Yeah,
we do.
That was good to see.
We do. Every year I go to the county fairs and I'll spend $8,000 to $10,000 buying animals, for these kids at 4-H, because I'll be honest, that's where we get some of our best workers is you get these kids that are learning how to raise an animal,
Yeah.
and you show them that you're supporting them.
Yeah.
We get some really good employees, some kids that, maybe even high school kids that can come in and work after hours or weekends and stuff like that. So I spend a lot of time and money, and I tell you what, I get a lot of joy out of it. You see those kids, and you're bidding on their animal, and you're raising the price up. It is a really positive thing.
Even though I saw the amount of employees, for some reason I was thinking it was a self-wash, but you're literally going to have staff on hand that's
Yes,
cleaning interior, exterior of the car.
There's other operators that will have one to save on money, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, from a safety standpoint, you need to have two people there. Prior to this, I was in manufacturing. I worked for Scotts Miracle-Gro for several years when I got out of college, and they safety. So that's a very important part of what we do, and we don't even open with one person. If there's only one person there, they have to wait till another person gets there to open just for safety concerns. So everybody wears a headset like you see in a restaurant, so they always can be talking, so if something does happen. So, and on busier days, customer service is important, so we'll ramp up to 3, 4, 5 people if necessary.
Assuming the weekend's still going to be the busiest time, assuming.
Yes, sir.
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah.
Those are your peak times.
Yeah.
So, surprisingly, we thought COVID would slow our business, which it did at the end of March and April. We've actually seen an uptick. People seem to be more apt to take care of their car and keeping it clean. So we've actually, we've seen some really strong numbers here this past month of June.
Okay. Just follow up on one of the points that Charlie mentioned. It is exterior cleaning only, right?
Yes, sir.
So you don't, your staff does not get inside the
We
vehicle?
do not touch the car. We're there purely for the safety of the customer.
Right, okay. Assuming that you get approval, what's your timeline for development?
So we get a shovel in the ground, we move pretty fast. It's 120 days from breaking ground. We'll be operational. So we have the same crews, we use local trades, but we have the same management crew. They set expectation in bid meetings, and I mean, it's go. So it takes about 90 days to get the building out, 95 days, and then we come in and start installing equipment. Staff is being trained well a month in advance. We may even transplant like the manager from another location we have, so that way they can come down and work, but we try to get the majority of the staff locally.
Okay. As you mentioned, there's some challenges on that site just because it's so narrow front to back. One thing I noticed there, the sound deadening design layout, we did not, at least I didn't see a copy of the sound report. Was that focused on the entire operation or just the noise from the interior?
The survey we did was in Twinsburg, Ohio. It had focused on the entire site. Typically what you'll find is the road noise is actually a higher decibel level than when you're 35 feet from the car wash. But with this location, they've come out with some newer technology, some muffling systems for the dryers. Everybody always thinks the central vacuum is the loudest, and it's actually the quietest. It's the dryers on the end of the tunnel. So they've, the company we buy from the OEM, Sonny's out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, has molded a sound deadening system to put on the dryers, and it's helped dramatically to the point where we've had customers that we've sold them to that the neighbors are complaining like, oh, thank you for turning the dryers off. Well, they didn't turn them off; they just put this equipment on. And then also, if you look at our hours of operation, we're not open 24 hours. We close at 7 during the week and 5 on Sundays. But again, the neighbors behind us, we want them to be customers. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we're not making them unhappy or upset.
Well, that's one of the concerns that I had. It's very close to the neighbors on the north side there. Didn't know what have you had discussions with the current occupants of those two houses?
I have not. I think the landscaping on that backside and the screening is going to be really critical. So obviously that 6-foot fence, obviously very important. The trees, getting as much buffering in there as possible. I would say the house on North Summit, I would say they're not, for all intents and purposes, you can get a number there. There's a noise concentration beyond that exit end, but again, one other thing that we do is we move the dryers further in the tunnel, and then we have an automated towel drying system, which no other wash in Columbus, to my knowledge, has. So that pushes them another 30 feet back in the tunnel. So again, that noise is staying in the tunnel versus escaping out. We have vinyl roll-up doors, high-speed doors, so in between washes, those are cycling up and down. So that's another thing that helps keep that noise in the tunnel itself.
How would you handle somebody in the stacking lane that had their sound system turned up really loud?
We go out and play that after we turn it down.
You actually interact with them?
Yeah, we actually on the vacuum systems, we have signs no loud music. We want everyone to enjoy the experience there. So whether somebody likes our music or not, we don't necessarily, we want all customers to be happy. So.
Yeah, one other question I had about the fencing. I don't know, given the terrain, that's going to block the view of the stacking lane completely. In other words, those two houses, I think they'll be able to look out from the ground floor level and actually see the tops of the vehicles.
Okay.
Just because and again, I don't know what your finished grade is going to look like, but if I read correctly, you accept vehicles up to, what, 87 inches high?
7'3", so.
Something like that anyway, and I think that fence will actually go below. If you look at the way the land slopes from those houses, slopes down to that stream.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're over on their property filling it and leveling it, I think they're gonna be looking over the top of the fence and seeing the vehicles in the stacking lane. So you might wanna consider, and I don't know, staff will ask for feedback from you guys, you might wanna consider going with a higher fence.
Go to an 8-foot fence.
I don't know what would be necessary, at least to me, it would seem good to, based on the finished grade, which we don't know, raise it so that it at least blocks the view of the vehicles as they go through. I know the L4 standard says minimum 6 feet, it doesn't say it can't go higher.
But then we look at the fence section of the code.
And then that requires
6 is maximum. So we measure fence from finished grade, so there could be some mounding involved on that back side to bring the fence up a little bit.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. If we need to build a little buffer to get us up to that, minimum car height, that's absolutely, like I said, we want people behind us to be happy. We don't want them to have ski cars, I agree with that.
right. And I'm just trying to think of a potential issue in the future. I haven't talked with them obviously, and they might enjoy sitting out and watching the vehicles for all I know. But something to consider, and once the engineering, and we know what the grade level is going to be.
And I'm not that granular on the plans at this point yet, so I don't know the exact elevations.
And I think maybe, and this is a question for staff too, the trees along the fence there, we'll have to watch those closely because it looks like they're gonna be close enough to the electric lines on the eastern part of the lot that I don't know that the trees could be any taller than like 25 feet.
I think
And
that
still clear the electric companies, still adhere to their clearance guide.
One of my favorite trees that I put in is the flowering cherry, which I don't know if it's quite. It's just a beautiful tree. It's got fragrance to it. It's a messy tree, obviously, but if that would be acceptable to the planning commission, I really like them, in the spring when they bloom.
I think what we would do, because it doesn't specifically say the type of tree on the site plan, but knowing that there's going to be that there is an electrical easement behind them, I don't think they want to spend the money to put in trees
No, I wouldn't think
to
so.
get them topped. So we can work with the applicant, should this be approved, to make sure the appropriate trees are placed in that location.
Okay. And that would also fall under the requirements or questions from the staff.
Correct.
Okay. And I know right now there's what looks like a telephone line that runs directly across the middle of the lot from Broad Street back.
Yeah, that's internet. It's an internet line. They're supposed to be
Yeah.
relocating that. So.
Well, that just like the storm drain that's there now, you'll have to move those as part of the
Yes, sir.
construction. So.
And just for knowledge, we do have our application submitted with the Corps of Engineers right now. We did our bat remediation last week. There was one tree that was potentially bat habitat. People came out, they sat, they watched. No bats came out of it. Cut it down. A biologist came in, studied the tree, didn't see bat habitat. So we've done that due diligence to this point too. So that was a bit of a hurdle to get through for the tree, but so be it.
Okay. Well, those are my questions. Overall, I think it looks really nice. Looks like a good plan. Any other follow-up questions from commission members?
This is maybe more for staff, with the front easement along Broad Street being so narrow there, is there any concerns with expanding Broad Street in the future that might be, they run into each other?
As part of the submittal, the public service director requested that they dedicate additional right-of-way, which they've done with this. You can see the property line kind of V's out there, but there's that dotted line inward of that. That's where they're dedicating additional right-of-way up to.
So the public service director is okay with everything.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, so my question would be like, when we start the building process, the digging process, what road are you coming in? I'm assuming Broad Street, but then what about, Belmar? I mean, are we concerned about the road, the travel on the road and construction going on and, you know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna have crews moving in and out, heavy equipment will come in and out one time. So once we strip the land, dig footers, move forward, you'll have some heavy equipment. There's gonna be a lot of paving going on. I can tell you if we damage something, obviously we'll repair it, we own it. Just the widening of Broad, I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're investing into this. So, if I got an asphalt paver out there and I gotta go throw down another 50 ton, we'll do whatever we have to do. Again, I don't want anyone to be upset. I want them to be happy that we're coming to town. I want you guys to be proud of the project that you approved and we put in. So, if we need to, repave sections, we will do what it takes.
And those details, typically prior to any construction, there's a pre-construction meeting with the public service director.
Okay.
And they go over, here's how construction traffic will happen. So they go over and everybody's on the same page before they break ground. So
Okay.
that's done at a staff level. Once we get to that point, then that's the next step.
All right, cool. Thanks, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think because obviously we started business on this, I mean, there's 25,000 just in safety for traffic control. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes into this project, so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've done a few of these, so, thought of most of the items, I should say.
Thank you, I'm done.
Any other questions from commission members? Discussion amongst ourselves, I mean, are we okay, are we ready to vote on it? If so, entertain a motion.
I'm ready to vote.
Good.
Okay.
We need a motion. I move to approve the Transportation Corridor Overlay District Application TCOD 20-001 pursuant to section 1259.07 of the Pataskla Code with the following modifications. You read modifications for the record?
You can state the applications listed in the staff report should suffice.
And mess myself up. With the modifications listed in the staff report. Is that good?
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the modifications as listed in the staff report. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Charlie. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, we'll ask for a vote.
Mr. Burring,
Yes.
Mr. Degerow,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs.
Yes. That motion passes and the application's approved. Thank you for coming in and best of luck.
Yep, thank you for your time, gentlemen. Thank you. Look forward to being part of the community.
All right.
And thanks for your assistance too.
Yeah, he's got lots of notes, I see. I'll talk about on the way home.
Okay, that was the only application on our agenda tonight. And we have no new business listed, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so we move on to item number 7, is excuse Frank's absence from the June 3rd, 2020 regular meeting. I'll so move.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Degerow,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes,
Mr. Burring.
Abstain?
that motion passes. And next we need to approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2020 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes, and are there any additions or corrections? If there are none, then I'll move that the minutes of the June 3rd, 2020 meeting be approved as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Discussion?
Discussion.
Roll call.
Mr. Brewery,
Abstain?
Mr. Boggs,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
That motion passes. Anything else for tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll, need a motion to adjourn. Somebody like to move?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second?
Yeah,
Thank you,
second.
Frank. Roll call?
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro,
Yes.
Mr. Brewery,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs.
Yes. The motion passes and we're done for the day.
All right.
Thank you.
Good job, fellas.